So as I mentioned in my earlier video, going to be doing some upgrades and doing some videos for everybody to follow along with. The first thing I need to do to the RZR is to get this body damage repaired, and you know, there's no point in bolting anything on when I have to rip these fenders off to repaint them. You can paint them on the RZR. It's just I always believe in taking everything apart to paint it just like it was done from the factory. I don't like masking lines. I don't like, it's just a pain in the butt having to mask up a machine like this. It's harder than masking up a car just because of the shape of it. There's so much to it. So what I'm going to do is I will take off the quarter panels, move the machine, you know, to a clean area, whether it be outside or in the corner here, covered up, whatever, and then just paint these fenders separately. They are a plastic, an automotive style plastic, painted with automotive paint. This is damage from me and a little mishap in the trail. Not a big deal. On the other side, however, the paint literally flaked right off the thing. And I've heard some comments like, oh, that's why I don't know why they put automotive paint on machines and so on. Down here, this should have all been red. And it was red before. And what's happening is it's just flaking right off. Now, I'm not expecting everybody to, you know, be auto body and paint professionals, but looking at that plastic that it was painted on, you see how shiny it is? Paint's not going to stick to that. This panel on this side specifically has not been prepped properly. And what happened was when I was drying it off, I dry off my machine with compressed air, which is only about 110 to 120 psi. It's not like a pressure washer that's 1200 to 3000. It's 120 psi, and it blows that paint off just like you're blowing leaves off your driveway with a leaf blower. So it's obviously not been prepped properly. And yes, it did start by me blowing it, but it's just the paint's, it's not even on there. Probably you can see the decals are pulling the paint and everything right with it. That shouldn't happen. So we're going to take this quarter off as well with the other one, prep it as well, and repaint it properly. I'll go through the process of that. What we're going to have to do first, though, is I mentioned that I wanted to do S-style doors and the lowers. Not S-style doors. They're from a 1000 XP, actually. I bought them off a guy on one of the Facebook groups. He gave me a good deal. I had to drive a couple hours to get them, but it's better than paying Polaris, you know, $500 for a pair of doors. Actually, be more than that, I think. So regardless, what I want to do is the lowers this time, instead of having them black like they are from UTV Giant, I want to paint them body color and add some graphics, give it a little bit better look. You can order red bottoms from UTV Giant, but I didn't know whether they would match my Havaso red or whether they would be more of an orangey red. It's easier just to paint. I don't have any issues painting them. So before I do that, though, there they are in the box. I'll show them to you shortly here. And there's the used doors that I got, and they're going to be all redone and everything. What I have to do first, though, is install the lowers loosely on the new doors, get them mocked up, make sure they're going to fit properly, and then take everything apart and paint it again. You don't want to be painting lower doors. You don't want to paint them first and then bolt them on and realize you have to tweak it or bend it or drill out a hole, and you'll cause some severe damage to the paint doing that. It's easier to mock it up, make sure it fits. You know, it's just two pins that hold these doors on. There's really not much to it. Make sure they fit, do a dry run, take it apart, prep it, paint it, and away you go. It's so much easier that way. So this weekend, my goal is to remove my trail doors, mock up the S doors with the bottoms, make sure they fit, probably get them back off and put the trail ones back on again. Like I say, it's two pins. It's a 5-minute job. In case I go riding again in the meantime. But that way I'll know that I can paint the lower doors in the body color, because they're metal, they're aluminum. I'll prep them and paint them, prep and paint the quarters and repair it. The custom graphics I will do on our own. The only graphics that I'm going to order from Polaris is this RZR decal. It's not bad. I think it's $20 or something. It's not terrible, just because it's a little bit, you know, specific to the machine. But we're doing a little bit of color change. It's still going to be red, but I think I'll give you a little bit of a teaser here. I'm going to replace the white, I think, with a silver, just to give it a little more punch. We'll see. That might change as we go. But anyway, so right now what we're going to do is we're going to take off the trail doors and we're going to test fit the S doors over there. So for anybody that hasn't removed the doors before, there's a couple different ways you can do it. There's 4 bolts that hold the hinges onto the machine. That's one way. Or there's these pins that pop down in the hinge, and they just have a little E-clip on them. The E-clip slides on the, I don't want everything to go flying here, but it just slides over the hinge in a little groove, okay? And that stops the pin from coming back out. To remove them, you just stick a screwdriver in the little pin, give it a little twist, the clip slides right out. Watch it because they will go flying and they're small. If you have spares, it's not a huge deal, but if you don't and you're walking around looking for a clip, you're going to be ticked off that you lost it. So just hold your hand there, make sure it doesn't go flying. It pops out, the pin lifts up out of the door, and the doors lift right off. I can show you roughly here what I mean. So there's the pins right there, one there, okay? You look up underneath, I'm not sure how good this is going to show on camera. There's your little C-clip right there, or sorry, E-clip right there, okay? They pop right off. I'm not going to be able to do this and hold the camera at the same time, but I'll pop those clips off right now and I'll be back. All right, I never realized how awkward it was to try to film something when you're by yourself and there's nobody to hold the camera, but anyways. So the E-clips are popped off of the pins. Okay, now the pins are just sitting in there. They won't fall out when the vehicle's sitting still. There's gravity's going to hold them in. Don't drive it like that. Obviously, vibration, they will fall out. So what you do is just push them up from the bottom, pull the pin out, okay? Push the second one up, pull it out. Now, I'll give everybody a heads up. There's little plastic bushings in here that stop the door from rattling. The bottom ones may fall out, okay? There's nothing holding them in now that the door's not there. So just be aware of that. There's one right there. I just fell out of my hand, okay? Now the door's off. You can sit it on the bench. What I do, just so I don't lose them, I'm going to pull these bushings out, okay? If you lose them, they're a pain, they're small, they're plastic, they're probably about $5 each at Polaris. So I'll set them up there. So there's the door removed off the machine. I have door bags on the inside, as you can see. Those are going to be put on the new door as well. Now, the UTV Giant door, the lower doors, they bolt on in a few places under the bags up here, which you can't see right now. But they also bolt right here into one of the two bolts that hold your latch in. To test fit the new to me, S doors, I don't need to put the latch on, but if I want to test fit my UTV Giant lowers, I'm going to need to bolt them there. So for the sake of 2 bolts, I'm just going to pop out this latch. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this bolt so I can pull the plastic away from the door a little bit, separate that. Remove these 2 bolts. That latch will pop right out. I'll pop it in the new doors, bolt them on, just so we get a test fit, and then everything's going to be true to form. We know that it is going to be how we have it set up. So I'm not going to video that. You just literally undo these 2 bolts, and this piece falls right out. That's all that holds it. So I'll be back once that's done. All right, so I have I took off the inner doors. They just pop off with these little plastic, or sorry, not inner doors, I meant the bags. They pop off with these little plastic push pins. Sometimes they get a little bit beat up when you take them off. That's not a big deal. I have hundreds of them. If not, you don't need to order this sort of stuff from Polaris. If you go to your local automotive supply store, such as in Canada here to be Napa, I believe there's like O'Reilly's and so on, they will sell you these things. Usually a bag of 5 of them is like $3. They're cheap. I have a bunch from years ago when I had a body shop. I used to buy 100 of them for like $8. They're next to nothing. Anyways, yeah, don't be afraid to go grab some of those. They're dirt cheap, and it saves you messing with broken ones later. Anyways, so I took that off to make it easier. There's the 2 bolts are out for the latch. I don't know if I can do this while it's on the door or not, but it just lifts up, and that latch will slide right up and out. And of course, I can't do it with one hand, but you get the idea. And that latch is now going to be installed in my S door, and I'll be back in 2 minutes. So here's the S door frame. Like I say, it's used. The gentleman I bought it from was lucky enough, or nice enough I should say, to give me the hinges still on the frame, so I don't even have to swap those out. These bolts they're terrible. They're known for getting stuck in the hinges and snapping off. I think the other door frame that he gave me does have a broken bolt, but No big deal. When it's off the machine, it's easy enough to drill it out from the back. It's just a welded nut, so you just drill that out. Or I might even be able to get a hold of it from the back and twist it out with some vice grips and some heat. We'll see. I'm not really too worried about it right now. This is just a mock-up dry fit. So here's the door frame. There's my latch that I took off of my trail doors. As you can see, they line up perfect. Polaris was smart. They didn't bother changing any of that. So I'm going to throw those 2 bolts in there, just, you know, hand tight. It's a test fit, and we'll hang it on the machine and see how it fits. I just turned down my radio because I realized that might have been aggravating to some of you folks. The speaker's right above where I'm videoing from, so I apologize. I turned that down, and we'll try this again. And we're going to put the door on the right way out and the right side up this time. Okay, so pushing in, pushing in, pin, in, second pin, in. There we go. That's better. Seems to fit better right side up and everything. The latch, we'll see. I don't know if it's going to shut off the bat. This door has never been adjusted for this machine. Actually, look at that. Not bad. Okay. So there's the door frame on the S doors. Okay. That's step 1 to the dry fit. It's not fitting exact. Here it does need a little bit of tweaking. It appears that the door has to come forward a hair. So I think there is adjustment there. Yep, there's lots of adjustment. So you know what? While we have it in this stage, we might as well tweak that a hair and get her fitting properly. Okay, so I've quickly adjusted the door. I apologize, I didn't get video of it, but it is so simple. And do this first, okay, before you mount your lowers. I know that it doesn't seem to make sense because you think, well, when I mount my lowers, I may have to adjust again. And yes, you may. But if you start at least with a base point where you know your door shuts and fits properly before you even start with the lowers, you're not groping around in the dark. You at least know you have a good base point, a good starting point. So to adjust your door, there's 4 bolts here on the hinge, 2 on the top hinge, 2 on the bottom hinge. And the door comes with, it's got elongated holes, okay? So when you loosen those, the door will move up and down, forward and back. And the idea is, on the striker here, I don't know if you can see where it goes in there, you want that to be centered. You see how the black striker here is centered with my latch. That's what you want, okay? That way nothing's rubbing, it's just shutting on its own. Nice click, you heard it click there. It's not rattly. Also, height-wise, it's hard to see here. You want the striker roughly centered on this latch here, height-wise, okay? I'm a little bit off here, maybe 1/8 of an inch higher than I am centered, but close enough. So that's the door frame is on there now. The S frame, you can see how it bows out, right? Give you a little more clearance. We'll get the lowers out here in a second. All right, so as much as I've tried to document, you know, every bit of this process, it's next to impossible to hold the camera and do it. I think I need one of the headbands to mount the camera to. But anyways, I'll try to stop as often as I can and show you folks. So I have just mocked up, loosely bolted on the UTV Giant lower door, okay? I've seen some videos where people were ecstatic with these lower doors. I've seen some where they weren't so much. What folks need to remember is they're 90 bucks, they're 89 bucks. So, you know, you gotta expect that they're not gonna be perfect. That, to me, that's a pretty good deal. I mean, Polaris doors up here in Canada are the better part of $500 for the lowers, just the plastic lowers with a little metal frame. Pro Armor and everything, they're anywhere from $300 to $700 depending on what you get. So for 90 bucks American, time I get them shipped up here, I'm still, I don't know, just over 200 bucks for a pair of lower doors. And they're metal, right? They're not plastic. So they're aluminum actually. So they should last. And I've had my other ones for over a year and had no issues. Okay, couple things. You do have to tweak them a little bit, okay? You want the door sitting fairly tight. You don't want it to rattle. So for example there, see how it's got a little bit of noise to it? There's no weather stripping on it yet, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open the door, I'm gonna tweak the bottom, push it in a little bit so that's more tight when I shut it. That way it's not going to rattle. That's not a big deal. Some of the other complaints that I've heard is when you install these lowers, because of where they bolt there, you put in a little J-nut here, it's pretty easy, and it bolts to the hinge there. People are saying, well, that's stupid because it is blocking the bolt holes for that hold the door skin on, the plastic skin. And yeah, it does, because they're designed so that you're not supposed to have the outer skin off. The outer skin is supposed to be on the door, and then you bolt these on. So the bolts that that you can't get to in here, they're already in there. It's a done deal. They're not hurting anything. So I think people are maybe misunderstanding the concept that you're supposed to bolt these on after the door is, like when the door is together. Secondly, I've heard complaints of, oh, there's a big gap here. It doesn't fit right. Well, your plastic factory door comes down here and blocks all that. That's not seen. In the defense of UTV Giant, they're not gonna pay more to give you a bigger piece of metal when it's not necessary anyways. I mean, they're a mass production company. They've got to make money too, so I get it. So what I'll do here, I'll try to set it up so I can show you how to fix this so that you don't get as much of that rattle there that you're gonna get on the trail. It's a quick, easy fix. I'll try to set up the camera and show you. Okay, so here's the magic science to fixing that. You're gonna want that touching. If it's rattling out like that loose and you're on the trail, it's gonna rattle, okay? There's no way about it. Simple. You grab it, give it a tweak, okay? Don't get crazy. Your door frame you don't want to bend your door frame. Just pull it in a little bit. Make it a little bit tighter. Shut your door. Okay, we're not quite there yet. I don't know if it's something I can do when it's on or off the door, but a little tweak like that. There we go. Rattle gone, okay? It's gone. By the time you get the rubber weather stripping around there, won't be any rattles. It'll be nice and tight. Is it a refined method? Is it, perfect? No. A little tweak here and there, but believe it or not, it's the way that up until about 15 years ago, that's how we used to adjust car doors. You'd loosen the hinges, you'd put a hammer hand on the bottom, you'd give it a tweak. It is what it is. Cars nowadays are much more refined, and we don't have to do that anymore. The hinges are welded on, they're not bolted on, but for an off-road machine, everything's not going to be perfect, nor are the lower doors, but that'll do the job. By the time you get weather stripping on there and your upper door, it'll make it much more solid, and you won't have any rattles. All right, I got a little side note here. I think I mentioned it in one of my previous videos that the previous owner had broken off one of those bolts in one of the hinges. It was the hinge on the passenger side door. Now, obviously, I need to fix that. So what I did, the one bolt that was left was in this hole. So I took it off. This one was broken. Took the hinge out. The hinge is here in the vise. You can see there's the broken bolt inside the nut. Now, this is the back side of the hinge. And the reason I'm drilling it from the back side of the hinge is that drills rotate in a clockwise position. They'll go both ways, but when you drill in a clockwise position normally. So if you drill from the other side in a clockwise position, you're actually trying to screw the bolt in tighter, which is just going to make things worse. You may have to drill it right out and re-tap it and thread it, and that's fine. But by drilling it from the back, at least, if it does decide that once you're halfway drilling it comes loose, it will at least unscrew itself back out. If that makes any sense to you people, I'm hoping it does. You can get left-handed drill bits just for doing, taps and threads and so on, or sorry, for using easy outs and so on. But regardless, most people don't have them. I can't even find mine, so I'm just going to do it this way. But that's a little tip. If you're going to drill it out from the back side, so the drill is going to push the broken bolt out rather than screw it in tighter. So what I've done so far, I've drilled a 1/8 hole in the middle. I'm going to go progressively bigger until the bolt is almost all the way out. Try to stay right in the center. Hit it with a center punch if you need to get it started, but stay right in the center so you don't ruin the threads on this nut any more than you have to. And hopefully it'll screw out. I'm going to go a couple sizes bigger here, and I'll let you know my progress. Okay, so I got lucky, so to speak. As I was drilling out, I hit larger bit, and you can see it caught the broken bolt and screwed it out through the hole. Now I just have to hope that it didn't mess up my threads too bad. They are quite damaged in there. So, two things I can try here. I can retap them, which I think is going to be the way to go, to the normal size, so I can use the factory bolt. And you know what? If that doesn't work, it's not a big deal. I will retap it just to a bigger size. I think if I go to the Imperial equivalent, I believe, I'm not sure what size these bolts are. They're metric, I know that for sure. There's the factory bolt there. So that looks like it's very close to a 5/16. If I go to a 5/16, it'll be a coarser thread. It might give it enough bite. You don't want it loose. There are 2 bolts in each hinge, but still, you don't want your door getting out of adjustment, you know, every few rides. They've got to be in there tight. So that's a one way. I could go up to the next size bolt if I needed to, you know, just keep going bigger. Or very worst case, I just grind off that nut and weld a new nut on there and be done with it. You know, we'll have to see which way to go. I'm gonna try tapping it first, see what happens. All right, so I've jumped ahead a little bit here and I'm onto the passenger side now. I didn't bother videoing all the details. It's the same as the driver's side, other than the other side of the vehicle. Nothing's different. But what I am doing on this side now is I am marking on the back side of the door which holes are used and which ones aren't. So I know if I need to drill any holes in the lowers. And it's a good thing I did, because for the factory doors, the factory plastics, these holes are used for your, or sorry, there, my bad. Here, 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 and I think one up there. And like we discussed before, that's not a big deal because the plastics are on the door, should be on the door anyways. I'm in a unique situation. Should be on the door when you're putting the lowers on, so it's not a big deal. The ones that are a big deal are this hole here, and this hole here, and this hole here. And the reason they're a big deal in my situation is because I have inner door bags that I'm using. I've had these for a couple years, so they're getting in a little bit of rough shape, but even if I buy new ones, they're gonna use the same holes. So what I did, I held them up on the factory door. These bags, sorry, are actually for 1000 XP. So you can see how the holes line up, right? Oh man, it's hard to do this and hold your camera too. There we go. But underneath, obviously, some of them are fine, others are blocked. Okay, because of the new doors. So what I did was I held them up. I went around to the back side of the door. I marked with a white paint pen which ones I need to drill out. And now I know that there's a couple that are going to give me a hard time. They're not going to work, and I'll drill those holes out. Another thing I noticed, I didn't really like the gap here between the lower door and the frame, and I realize UTV Giant's trying to keep the installation simple and so on, but I have it this far apart. I have a welder, it's not a big deal. I think what I'm going to do is just weld a nut on the back side here and there, drill a hole through, and that way from the other side I can have a bolt coming through, and it'll just hold the door that much tighter to the frame. It's nothing anybody really needs to do. It's just I have it this far apart. It'll be like 5 minutes to weld it, be done with it, and it'll make it that much tighter for me. It'll stop a lot of mud from getting up underneath here and into the cab, and probably reduce a couple of rattles while we're at it. Okay, I'll get going on that and I'll be back. All right, so I've just finished welding some nuts in here. I actually used speed nuts and just cut them. So that's all I've done. I've just welded a speed nut inside the door like that. The welds don't have to be really fancy or, you know, solid. You're not building a trailer. All it's doing is stopping the nut from spinning. Once the bolt is in, it just acts as a bolt and nut. It's not going to go anywhere. But anyways, there's all I've done. I've just welded them in. A little tip is I don't want to touch it. It's still hot. But I have screwed the bolt in from the back side for two reasons before I welded it. One, it holds the speed nut in place. You know, the holes line up. And two, it stops any weld spatter from getting inside the speed nut and screwing up the threads. So now once this cools down after a couple seconds here, I'll just back that bolt out, and away we go. I just use old bolts for doing this, and then I'll put in new ones when it comes time to put it on the door. But those are those 2 spots that I was telling you about, just to have it a little bit tighter, the lower door a little bit tighter to the door frame. All right, I'll be back. All right, so what I've done now is the bolts and everything were welded on, or sorry, the nuts were welded on the door. I put the plastic on the door frame just on my workbench, bolted it all up, and then put the door on the RZR. Then I proceeded to mount the lower after the fact, which is the way it was designed to be done anyways. So you can see there's one of the factory mounting spots from UTV Giant. There's the second spot from UTV Giant, and the third. I have added this one and this one. They're hidden by my bags that go here. This hole I had to drill for the bags. Remember I said that there was a couple spots that were plugged, so the bags go there, there, and then I think here and here. There's a couple of spots anyways. So that's all open now. So I'll do a little mock-up of the bags to make sure they're good. This is all gonna come back off because, as I said in my earlier videos, the door lowers are gonna be painted red, not on the inside, just on the outside. And there's new graphics going on. But once again, it's important to get this all mocked up and fitted first, just so that you're not trying to do it once you got fresh paint on everything. And nice and tight, no rattles. So, and that's without weather stripping on it yet, so that'll only make it tighter. All right, so I'm gonna do the same to the other side, get it to this stage. I'm also gonna mock up the bags, make sure they fit. I mean, they should, they're just push pins that hold them on. And then that's it for the mock-up. I'll put the trail doors back on because I think I'm going riding next weekend. So at least now these are set, ready to paint, take them apart, and I'm gonna strip these graphics off and put on new graphics. And all right, until then, thanks for watching. Bye.